Hey everyone, in the last video we created a GitHub account, but in this video we're going to actually go and create a repo, and we're going to clone that repo onto our local machine. We're going to add something to it. It could be code, but we'll just add a text file or something like that, and then we're going to push that from our local machine to Git so that we'll be able to track our version history. So the first thing that we're going to do is just go to our homepage when you sign in to GitHub, and then you're going to go and select to create a new repository. So we're going to create a new repository. So it's got the owner, so that's going to be your username. Then we're going to have to pick a name for our repository. So it could be anything. We're just going to call this test, but if you were making a banking application or something like that, you'd call it, banking application or whatever. Description, that's optional. Can be useful when you're looking over previous repos and projects that you've done, or if somebody else is reading through it. You could also add a readme, so this would be useful for, again, other people understanding what exactly your repo does. So we'll just tick that box, and then you can choose to have it public or private. So just for this, we're just going to keep ours public because it's not going to be too exciting. So we're going to go and hit create repository, and then once we've got that, you can see we've got one thing in our repo already, and that's a readme, and that's because we selected the readme box. So this, we can add other stuff to this other stuff to this readme, and we can just commit our changes like so, and then you can see that our readme has changed. So in this readme you might detail the steps on how to run your application. So for example, if you had a Java application, you might mention that it needs Java 8 plus, or maybe that it also needs Maven, or it needs this dependency or that dependency. So that's things that you would mention in your README, along with a short description of what it actually does. Now, if we want to actually get this on our machine, how do we do that? So what we need to do is we need to go and clone this repo. So again, even though there's only the README in it, we want to go and clone this repo. So just navigate to your root, so the root of your project, and you'll see a little green button that says code, and then you'll see this long URL. So if we can just go and copy that, and once we copy this URL, what it'll do is on our local machine we'll be able to pull all the information that's on this. So if we just go and open up a terminal, so we've got a terminal here, we can just go and clear this information, and we want to go back a couple of directories. So I think we could put it in here, or we could put it in the folder this should be deleted. I'm actually going to leave it in that folder. This should be deleted. So what we want to do is clone that repo. So once that we've copied that URL, we use a git command called git clone. So just git clone, and then if we paste in that URL, we can then hit enter, and it should start cloning our repo. So if we wanted to open this project up to see what's in it, we could do an ls first. If we go into this test, that's the name of our Git repo, we can do an ls, and we can see that there's a readme md in there. And if we want to maybe see what's in that readme, now we already know what's in it, but we can just do a cat, and you can see it says test other stuff. So we could make an edit to this. So we could do something like open this readme in Vim and do this, and now it's got test other stuff, but we could go and add in something else too. So we could just say test other stuff and more, and we can just close this. And if we just do a cat on this again, we can see that this this contains test other stuff and more. But if we were to go and look at our repo, it wouldn't contain this, so it doesn't know about the new changes. So if I just go back to the browser and look at this, and I can do a refresh, and I can look at the commits. So you can look at the commit history. So that's just like your version history. So you can see it was created 5 minutes ago. That was the initial commit, and then there's an update to the README. And if you want to see the exact details on that update, you can go and click on that, and you can see other stuff has been added. But these changes were, as you can see, refresh this, it was 5 minutes ago, and we've just made this change, this new change, 30 seconds ago or whatever. So we want to go back to our terminal, and what we want to do now is we want to go and add this change. So if we do git add, and if we want to add everything that has changed, we just go and hit dot, like so. And now if we do git status, we can see that it has been modified. So this file here has been modified. So if we were to do git status before I was to add this, this would have been in red, but now that it has been added, it's in green. So the next thing we need to do is, once it has been added, we need to commit these changes. And to commit these changes, we just do git commit -m for your message. So your message would hopefully be something meaningful, but we'll just say added message to README. So that's gonna be our message, and that message is gonna appear within GitHub. So if we just hit enter on that, everything looks fine. But if you go back to, if you check your repo in your browser, you'll see that it's still not there yet. And it's not there yet because the last thing we need to do is we need to do a push. So if we do git push and hit enter, there's actually been a problem with this. So the problem I'm having here when I'm trying to push these changes is a permissions issue, and it's saying that the Ryan Hill 333 account that we've created is denied to Ryan Hill 2, because that's my other account that I usually use. So that's the account that I'm using at the minute. So we need to go and add this account to this new repo that we have. So if we go back to our browser, you'll not have to do this unless you have a GitHub account and you're already logged in on your machine. But I'll go through it quickly for anyone that might. So back in the browser, if we go to the repo that we're using, go into settings, and then from settings we go and add our new user. So if we go to collaborators, and then we go and add people to manage the access, and we go and look for somebody. So if we go and look for Ryan Hill 2, so that's me there. So if I go and add myself to this repo, and you see the way it says awaiting the response. So what I'm going to have to do is actually accept this response before I can start to push. So on my phone I've logged in and I've accepted the send request. So I'm hoping if I refresh this, it should change to collaborator. So that looks good. As far as this UI, it seems to be telling me that everything should be okay, but now we're going to go back to our terminal and see, does it actually work. So again, we're going to try the same command, git push, and this time it looks like it has successfully pushed a change. As you can see, this message here, written objects 100%. So to go and check this, we'll go back to our browser now, and if we go and navigate to our repo, you can see it now says test other stuff and more. So if we go to the commits, we can see that this commit message was made by Ryan, and it was added message to README. So that was the commit message that we put in. And if we go and click on this, we can see and more was added. Now we can do more than just add or edit an existing file. We can go and just add in brand new directories or brand new files or whatever else. So I'm just going to run through that really quickly as well. Let's just have a look. Currently at the moment we can see we just have the readme, and if we wanted to do maybe a touch, so touch creates a file, so just call that file1. So we're going to have a new file, we're going to call it file1, and we're going to make a new folder used by mkdir, and just going to say folder1. And now if I do an ls, we can see we have folder1, file1, and a readme. But if I do a git status, I can see that the file1 is in red. It's not been added. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another file into folder 1. So if we do an ls again, and we do a cd into folder 1, and then if we do an ls within that folder 1, there's nothing there yet. So we can do touch and create a new file, call that file2, and now if we do an ls, we can see we have file2. So if I just go back, if we do a git status again, we can see that there's been file1 and a folder1 is now also included because there's a new file within that folder1. So what we're going to do now is we want to add these, and we want to add everything. But if we just wanted to add one thing, we could do this: git add file1, and then do a git status again, and we could see that file1 has been added and folder1 has not. Now if you remember the command that we used to add in our previous commit, we just done git add and then a full stop, and that added everything. So if we do git status, you can see now everything has been added. And now to go and commit that, do git commit -m, and then just add in anything. So this can be anything. It's going to be our message. It's a terrible message, but I just want to show you where it'll pop up when we do make the commit. But you would, normally say something a bit more meaningful in your commit message. So a good commit message for this might be adding file1 and folder1 or something like that. It gives a little bit of a better description when you're reading through your commit history to know exactly what happened on a particular commit. If you read this can be anything, it doesn't really tell you what it is. But if you said, this is file1, or this is adding file1 and folder1, you're like, oh, okay, I know what we done in that commit. So we'll just hit enter there and do a git status one more time, and you can see there's nothing there, so that looks good. So if we just do git push and hit enter, this should push our new changes. So back in our browser, we can see that this has been added 30 seconds ago, so that looks good. Let's just go and see what the changes are. So you can see there's been a new file1 added, there's been a new folder1 with a file2 inside it, and no other changes have been made. So that looks good. So that's basically the video teaching us how to create a repo, get that repo locally to start with, then make some edits, put your code in there. We just use files for this example because it was easier to work with, but it could be bash files, it could be JavaScript files, it could be Java files, it could be XML files, whatever it is, and then you're able to look through your version history as you go. So I hope you gained something from this video. If you did, leave it a like, don't forget to subscribe, and have a good day.